Maya lived in a small town where everyone knew each other. She was a quiet and simple woman, living a peaceful life. She worked in a small flower shop near the town square. Every day, Maya would wake up early, water the plants, arrange the flowers, and smile at her customers. She liked her calm life. She did not want anything big or loud. People in town liked Maya because she was kind and always ready to help. But even though she was friendly, she kept to herself most of the time. She was not interested in gossip or big crowds. One day, something unusual happened. Maya found an old rifle in her attic. It belonged to her grandfather, who had passed away many years ago. Her grandfather was a quiet man too, but he was famous in their town for his skills with the rifle. He was not a man who liked to talk much, but when he picked up that old rifle, he became very serious and focused. Maya remembered the stories her mother told her about her grandfather. She thought maybe the rifle was special. It was old but still looked strong and well cared for. For many years, Maya had never thought about shooting or going to a shooting range. She never believed she was good at sports or competitions. But something inside her told her to try. She wanted to feel closer to her grandfather, to understand a small part of his world. So, she decided to visit the town's shooting range. The shooting range was a busy place. It was a big hall with many targets, guns, and people practicing their shooting. Some were young, some were old, but most of them looked very serious. There was also a champion shooter named Paul. He was famous all over the state. He had won many competitions and held the record for the best shooting score. Everyone there knew Paul. He was tall, confident, and a little bit proud. People often talked about him in the range, and some even watched him practice to learn from him. When Maya entered the shooting range that afternoon, she felt a little nervous. She held the old rifle carefully in her hands, feeling its weight and history. People noticed her, but only for a moment. Some whispered, "Who is she? Why is she here? She doesn't look like someone who can shoot well." Maya heard the quiet comments, but she did not care. She walked slowly to the shooting line, picked a spot, and placed her bag down. The room was full of noise, people chatting, guns firing, and the sound of targets being hit. But Maya stayed calm. She looked at the target far away. The air smelled faintly of gunpowder and metal. She took a deep breath and tried to remember the few tips her grandfather had once shared with her. She remembered him saying, "Shooting is about patience and focus. It is not about power." Paul was on the other side of the room, warming up. He looked at Maya with a little surprise. He was used to people talking about him, watching him, but no one paid attention to this simple woman with an old rifle. Paul smiled quietly, thinking this was going to be easy for him. Maya didn't say a word. She slowly took the rifle, checked it carefully, and loaded the bullet. She held the rifle with both hands, steadied her body, and looked through the small sight. The target was round with black, white, and red circles. The center was the bull's-eye, the best spot to hit. Everyone in the room was waiting for the competition to start, but no one expected Maya to do anything special. Her heart was beating, but her hands were steady. She remembered her grandfather's words again, "Focus, and listen to your breath." She breathed out slowly and gently pressed the trigger. The sound of the shot echoed in the room. Everyone turned to look. The bullet hit the bull's eye right in the middle of the target. There was a sudden silence. People stopped talking. Even Paul's smile disappeared. No one had expected that. Maya didn't smile or say anything. She just lowered the rifle and looked calmly at the target. Some people blinked in surprise. A few started whispering, "Did you see that? She hit the bullseye on her first shot." Others shook their heads. "It must be a mistake," they said. "She is just a beginner." Maya stood quietly, feeling a strange mix of surprise and calm inside her. She did not want to shout or show off. She only wanted to do her best. Paul walked toward her, his confident look now mixed with curiosity. He said, "You did well for your first shot, but this is just the beginning." Maya nodded slightly but said nothing. The crowd began to watch her more closely now. The simple woman with the old rifle had done something no one expected. The champion, Paul, who everyone thought would easily win again, was suddenly faced with a quiet stranger who had hit the bullseye on her very first try. Maya's heart kept beating fast, but her face stayed calm. She knew this was only the start of something new, something she never imagined before. After Maya's first shot hit the bullseye, the room was filled with quiet whispers and curious glances. People at the shooting range looked at her differently now, but not all in a good way. Some were amazed, but many others doubted her. They had seen her walk in calmly, holding an old rifle that looked worn and used. No one expected a simple woman like Maya to challenge the champion Paul, who was known for his perfect aim and strong confidence. Maya stood still, holding the rifle close to her body. She could feel the eyes on her, some full of surprise, others full of doubt. The silence around her felt heavy, but she did not lose her calm. Her fingers moved gently as she checked the rifle once again, as if trying to understand it better. The old rifle was a gift from her grandfather, and she trusted it. It felt like a connection to him, and that gave her quiet strength. Behind the crowd, a few men and women whispered to each other. "Maybe she got lucky," one said softly. "One good shot doesn't mean she can beat Paul," said another. Paul stood by, watching quietly. His proud smile had disappeared, replaced by a serious look. He wasn't used to being challenged by someone no one knew. He wanted to believe it was just a coincidence. But part of him wondered, could this woman really be better than him? The range manager stepped forward and announced, "The competition will begin soon. Let's welcome our new competitor, Maya." The crowd clapped politely, but some claps were slow and doubtful. Maya smiled softly and nodded to the people. She didn't want to argue or prove anything. She only wanted to shoot her best. Paul approached Maya. His voice was calm but firm. "Are you sure you want to do this? It's not easy to beat me." Maya looked up at him with steady eyes. She didn't speak loudly, but her answer was clear. She was ready. The first round of the competition started. Paul took his position and aimed carefully. He fired 3 shots. Each bullet hit the target close to the bullseye, but not perfect. The crowd watched, whispering excitedly. Paul's face was serious, focused on the target. Now it was Maya's turn again. She raised the rifle and looked through the sight. She remembered her grandfather's advice, "Don't rush. Let your breath guide you." She breathed slowly, feeling calm inside. Her finger pressed the trigger gently. The bullet hit the target, not the bullseye, but very close. It was a good shot, better than many others in the room. Maya felt a small smile inside. She was doing well. But not everyone was happy. A group of young men standing near the back laughed quietly. "She's just lucky. Wait, she will miss next time." Their words were cold and doubtful. Maya heard the whispers but ignored them. She didn't come here to prove them wrong with words. She wanted to prove it with her shots. As the rounds continued, Maya's shots became steadier. Some hit the bullseye, others hit very close. The crowd's attitude began to change. More people stopped whispering and started watching her with interest. They were surprised by her calm and focus. One woman in the crowd, who had been watching quietly, said to her friend, "She looks like she is just a simple woman, but her hands are steady, and she does not panic." Paul felt the pressure growing. This was not a competition he could easily win. Maya's quiet confidence was different from the usual nervous challengers. She didn't rush or show off. She just kept shooting with calm and care. At one point, Paul walked over to Maya during a break. He looked at her rifle and then at her face. "You shoot with your heart," he said softly. "That's something you cannot learn from books or training." Maya nodded, surprised by his words. "My grandfather taught me to listen to my breath and trust myself," she said quietly. "I never wanted to be a champion. I only wanted to feel connected." Paul smiled faintly. Sometimes, the best shooters are not the loudest or the fastest. They are the ones who find peace in their shots. The crowd watched this quiet moment with interest. Something was changing between the champion and the newcomer. Respect was growing, even in the silent doubt. As the competition continued, Maya's mind stayed focused on the target and the memories of her grandfather. She knew this was not just a test of skill but a journey to discover herself. Every shot was a small step forward. When the round ended, the scores were close. Paul was surprised and a little worried. Maya was no longer just the simple woman no one noticed. She was a real competitor, someone with steady hands and a calm heart. The room was filled with a new energy, one of excitement, hope, and respect. Maya's quiet strength was slowly changing the way everyone saw her. The simple woman with the old rifle was no longer just a face in the crowd. She was becoming a story everyone wanted to hear. The competition was getting more serious now. The room, once full of quiet whispers and doubt, was now buzzing with a different kind of energy, curiosity and excitement. People had begun to notice Maya. Not just as the simple woman who had walked in quietly, but as someone who could really shoot. Maya stood still, her calm face showing no signs of nervousness. Her hands held the old rifle steadily, like it was a part of her body. The heavy wooden stock felt warm and familiar against her cheek. She closed her eyes for a moment and remembered her grandfather's soft voice, "Trust your hands, trust your heart." Paul was watching from across the room. He had fired his shots, each one almost perfect, but still not beating his own record. Now, all eyes were on Maya. Everyone waited silently as she prepared for her next shot, the one that could change everything. Maya lifted the rifle carefully and took a deep breath. She could feel the pulse of the room slowing down, as if time itself was holding its breath. She looked through the small sight at the target far away. The bullseye, the center of all the circles, called to her. She knew that hitting it would not only show her skill but also honor the memory of her grandfather. The moment stretched. Then, with a gentle squeeze of her finger, the rifle fired. The bullet flew quickly and struck the target. The room went silent again. Everyone turned to look at the target. The bullet had hit the bullseye dead center. No one could believe it. Paul's eyebrows rose in surprise. His lips pressed tightly. He had never seen anyone hit the bullseye so perfectly on the very first shot in a real competition. The crowd gasped quietly, then started to whisper loudly. "Did you see that?" one man said. "Her first shot. She broke the champion's record." Maya did not smile or celebrate. She simply lowered the rifle and looked calmly at the target. To her, this was not a moment for pride. It was a moment of connection, a moment that made her feel close to her grandfather, as if he were standing beside her, watching with quiet approval. Paul stepped forward slowly. His usual confident smile was gone. Instead, there was respect in his eyes. "That was a great shot," he said softly. "You have skill, more than I expected." Maya nodded politely but said nothing. She felt a strange mix of emotions: surprise, calm, and a little fear. She knew this was only the beginning. The real challenge was still ahead. The crowd was now fully awake. They stopped whispering and started cheering quietly, careful not to disturb the seriousness of the competition. Cameras clicked, phones were raised, and reporters whispered to each other. This simple woman had done something no one believed possible. Paul looked at the target again, then back at Maya. He knew he had to focus if he wanted to keep his title. He walked to the line and took his place. The pressure was heavy on both of them now. Maya prepared for her next shot. Her hands were steady. She remembered her grandfather's advice to breathe slowly, listen to her heart, and trust herself. She lifted the rifle again and aimed carefully. The bullet hit the target close to the bull's eye but not perfect. It was still a very good shot, and the crowd applauded quietly. Maya smiled a little inside. She was learning, improving with each shot. Paul fired his shots next. His aim was strong, but the surprise in the room made his hands shake just a little. His shots were good but not perfect. The crowd noticed. Paul was feeling the pressure. Maya's calm and quiet nature was winning hearts. People started to see her not just as a beginner but as a true competitor. Her peaceful way of shooting reminded many of the story of her grandfather, who had once been a great marksman too. Between rounds, Maya talked softly to herself. She did not speak much, but when she did, her words showed how deeply she respected the sport. "This is not just about winning," she said quietly, "it's about being calm, focused, and kind to yourself." Paul listened to her words and nodded slowly. He had never met a competitor like her, someone who did not rush or boast but showed quiet strength. He began to feel respect growing inside him, mixed with the desire to do better. The competition moved forward, each shot becoming more intense. The crowd was fully engaged now. They watched the simple woman with the old rifle, amazed by her courage and skill. They watched the champion who was fighting to keep his title. The tension in the room was electric. Maya's first shot had broken the champion's record. That moment changed everything. It was no longer just a contest of skill, it had become a story of hope, belief, and respect. As the round ended, Maya lowered the rifle and took a deep breath. Her heart was beating fast, but her face was calm. She knew she had done something important. Not just for herself, but for everyone who had ever felt small or ignored. Paul approached her again, this time with a small smile. "You have the heart of a true champion," he said quietly. "It's not just about the score, it's about the courage to try." Maya looked at him and smiled softly. "Thank you," she said. "I never thought I could do this. But I believe my grandfather was with me." Paul nodded. He would be proud. The crowd clapped softly, some even standing up. They had witnessed something special, a moment when a simple woman broke a champion's record with her first shot. It was a story that would be told in their town for many years. Maya packed her rifle carefully. She did not feel the need to say much. Her actions spoke louder than words. The quiet strength she showed that day was more powerful than any loud cheer or boast. She knew this was only the start of her journey. But one thing was certain: her first shot had changed everything. The room was still buzzing with excitement after Maya's first shot broke the champion's record. People talked in small groups, their voices filled with surprise and respect. The simple woman who had quietly entered the shooting range was no longer invisible. Everyone now wanted to see what she would do next. Paul stood at the side, watching Maya carefully. His pride had taken a hit, but his determination was stronger than ever. He was the champion for a reason. Years of practice, countless competitions, and hard work had built his reputation. He was not going to lose easily. After a short break, the competition resumed. The manager called out, "Next round. Paul, your turn to shoot." Paul stepped up confidently. He wiped his hands on his pants, took a deep breath, and aimed at the target. He fired his first shot. The bullet hit close to the bull's eye but not perfectly. The crowd watched quietly. Paul's face showed seriousness mixed with a little tension. He fired again. This time, the bullet hit a little to the left. The crowd murmured. Paul's usual calm began to show cracks. For the first time in many years, he felt pressure not just from the competition but from the quiet woman who had just set a new record. Paul took a moment, closed his eyes, and breathed deeply. He knew he needed to focus. He raised his rifle for the third shot. The bullet hit the target closer to the bull's eye than before, but still not perfect. The crowd was watching intently now. The champion was struggling to match his usual accuracy. Many began to wonder if Maya's success was just luck or if she really had skill. Now it was Maya's turn again. She stepped forward quietly. Her heart beat steadily, her hands steady as ever. She raised the rifle, aimed carefully, and fired. The bullet split the target perfectly in the center. A hush fell over the room. Then the crowd burst into applause. The simple woman with the old rifle had done it again. Paul looked at the target with disbelief. His champion's pride was shaken. He walked over to Maya and said, "You have talent. I have to admit, I did not expect this." Maya smiled softly. "Thank you. I am learning, and I want to do my best." Paul nodded. "It is not just about skill," he said thoughtfully. "It is about calm and focus. You have that." The competition went on. Paul fired his shots with more care, but Maya's steady hand and quiet confidence were changing the game. Each time she fired, her bullets hit closer and closer to the perfect mark. The crowd's excitement grew. People who had doubted Maya now cheered for her. They saw not just a competitor but a story of hope and courage. A woman who did not seek attention but showed strength in silence. Between rounds, some reporters approached Maya. They asked her about her training, her life, and her secret. Maya spoke simply. "I learned from my grandfather," she said. "He told me shooting is about listening to yourself and staying calm. It is not about power but about patience." Her words touched many. People started to see Maya as a symbol not just of skill, but of quiet strength that anyone could find inside themselves. Paul watched from the side, feeling a mix of respect and challenge. He realized this competition was different. It was no longer about being the best alone. It was about understanding the heart behind the shot. As the final round approached, the tension in the room grew. Both Maya and Paul were at the top of their game. The crowd held their breath as Paul raised his rifle for the last shot. His bullet hit the bull's eye, strong and perfect. Then, Maya stepped forward for her last shot. The room was silent. She aimed carefully, steady and calm. The bullet flew. It hit the bull's-eye dead center again. The crowd erupted in cheers. Paul looked at Maya, smiled, and shook his head in respect. "You have earned this," he said softly. Maya felt a deep happiness inside. She had not only broken a record but had also won the respect of the champion and the crowd. The competition ended with applause and smiles all around. Maya packed her rifle with care, her heart full of pride and peace. She had come to the shooting range as a simple woman, but now she was more than that. She was a symbol of quiet strength and the power of belief. Paul walked over and extended his hand. "Welcome to the champions," he said with a warm smile. Maya shook his hand, feeling the warmth of respect and friendship. The shooting range, once full of doubt and quiet whispers, was now alive with hope and new stories. Maya's journey had just begun, but her first shots had already changed everything. After the competition, the shooting range was buzzing with new energy. People talked excitedly about Maya, the quiet woman who had shocked everyone by breaking the champion's record. She had become the talk of the town overnight, but Maya remained humble and calm, as always. The next morning, Maya went back to her flower shop. The smell of fresh roses and lilies filled the air. She arranged flowers carefully and smiled quietly at her customers. The events of the previous day felt like a dream. She was still surprised by her success but did not let it change her simple life. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Maya looked up and saw a man in a neat suit standing outside. He held a small card in his hand. "Hello, Maya," he said with a polite smile. "My name is Mr. Lewis. I am from the National Shooting Federation." Maya was surprised. "National Shooting Federation?" she asked softly. "Yes," Mr. Lewis said. "We have been watching your progress at the shooting range. Your skills and calm focus are impressive. We would like to invite you to join the upcoming national shooting competition." Maya's eyes widened. She had never thought about competing on such a big stage. I don't know if I am ready for that," she said quietly. Mr. Lewis smiled kindly. "You surprised everyone already. Sometimes, people don't know their own strength until they are given a chance. We believe you have great potential. Please think about it." With that, he handed her a card and left. Maya stood still for a moment, holding the card in her hand. The invitation was unexpected, and her heart beat faster. She looked around her flower shop, at the simple life she loved. Could she leave it to compete at a bigger stage? Could she face the pressure and the crowd? That evening, Maya sat by the window, looking at the stars. Her thoughts were full of doubt and hope. She remembered her grandfather's stories and the way he had believed in her when she was just a child. She knew he wanted her to try, to find her own path. Slowly, Maya made a decision. She would accept the invitation. Not for fame or money, but to honor her grandfather and herself. The days that followed were busy. Maya started practicing more seriously. She visited the shooting range every morning before work and every evening after closing the shop. Her hands grew steadier, her aim sharper. The old rifle felt stronger in her hands, like an old friend guiding her. At the shooting range, Paul was one of the first to congratulate her on the invitation. "You deserve it," he said with a warm smile. "I will be there too. It will be a real competition." Maya smiled softly. "Thank you, Paul. I hope we can both do our best." Meanwhile, the townspeople watched Maya's journey with pride. The simple woman who had once been ignored was now their champion. Children looked up to her, and parents spoke her name with respect. Maya's story was no longer just about shooting, it was about courage, belief, and quiet strength. One day, as Maya practiced at the range, a young girl approached her shyly. "I want to be like you," the girl said softly. "Can you teach me?" Maya smiled warmly. "Of course," she said. "Shooting is about patience and focus. I will help you." That small moment touched Maya's heart deeply. She realized that her journey was about more than winning competitions. It was about inspiring others to find their own strength. As the day of the national competition drew closer, Maya felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. She was ready, but the thought of competing on a bigger stage was still new and strange. Her grandfather's old words echoed in her mind, "Remember, Maya, shooting is not about power but about peace." On the morning of the competition, Maya packed her rifle carefully. She looked at the worn wood and felt a quiet connection to the past and the future. She took a deep breath and smiled. Whatever happened next, she knew she was ready to face the challenge. The morning sun rose softly over the city as Maya stepped out of her small car. She looked around at the large building before her, the National Shooting Arena. It was much bigger and brighter than the small shooting range in her town. The sound of voices and footsteps filled the air. Maya's heart beat faster, but she kept her calm. She carried her old rifle carefully. It felt lighter today, as if it was sharing her excitement and hope. This place was new and unfamiliar, but Maya reminded herself of her grandfather's words, "Focus on your breath. Let your heart guide your hands." Inside, the arena was busy with competitors from all over the country. Men and women in smart uniforms moved around, talking and preparing their equipment. Some looked confident and strong, others were nervous like Maya. She felt a small wave of fear but pushed it away. At the registration desk, a kind woman smiled at Maya. "Welcome, Maya. We have heard about you." "Good luck," she said warmly. Maya nodded and smiled softly. She felt a little more comfortable. As Maya walked toward the waiting area, she noticed Paul standing nearby. His eyes met hers, and he gave a small nod. "Ready for the big stage?" he asked. Maya smiled. "As ready as I can be." Paul laughed softly. "Don't worry. Just shoot with your heart." The competition was about to begin. Maya sat quietly, her fingers gently touching the old rifle. The sound of the announcer's voice echoed through the arena, "Welcome everyone to the National Shooting Championship. Today, the best shooters from across the country will compete for the title." Maya's name was called. She stood up and walked to the shooting line. The crowd was large, but she did not see faces or hear voices clearly. She focused on the target ahead, the familiar black and white circles. Taking a deep breath, Maya raised the rifle and aimed. The room seemed to slow down around her. She remembered her grandfather's advice, the feeling of peace inside. She fired. The bullet hit the target right in the center. A soft cheer came from the crowd. Maya lowered her rifle and waited for the next shot. The competition went on. Maya's shots were steady and strong. She felt calm and focused, even as the pressure grew. The other competitors watched her with respect and surprise. Some smiled and nodded. Others looked worried. Paul's shots were strong too. He was one of the top shooters, but even he could feel the pressure of Maya's calm confidence. During a break, a young competitor approached Maya. "I'm sorry if this sounds strange," he said shyly, but your calm is amazing. How do you stay so steady? Maya smiled softly. I think it is about trusting yourself. And remembering that it's not just the aim, but the heart that guides the shot. The young man nodded thoughtfully. Thank you. That helps. As the competition moved closer to the final rounds, Maya felt a mix of nerves and excitement. She was far from home, in a new place, competing with the best. But she was proud of how far she had come. Her grandfather's memory was with her in every shot. Finally, the last round arrived. Only a few shooters remained, and the crowd was silent with anticipation. Maya stepped forward, her rifle in hand. She felt the weight of the moment but also the quiet strength inside her. She aimed carefully. Fired. The bullet hit the bullseye perfectly. The crowd erupted in applause. Paul stepped forward for his last shot. He aimed with all his skill and experience, firing his bullet. It hit the target close, but not perfect. Maya's heart swelled with a quiet joy. She had done it. She had shown her skill, her calm, and her courage on the national stage. When the final scores were announced, Maya's name was at the top. She was the new national shooting champion. Tears filled her eyes, but her smile was calm and bright. She had never dreamed of this moment, yet here she was, standing tall and proud. After the ceremony, reporters and fans surrounded her. They wanted to know her secret, her story. Maya spoke simply. I am just a simple woman. I was lucky to have someone believe in me. Shooting is not just about strength, it is about peace and focus. Anyone can find that inside themselves. Her words inspired many, and her story was shared everywhere. From a quiet woman in a small town to the national champion, Maya had shown the power of courage and belief. That night, as she rested in her hotel room, Maya looked at her old rifle with love. It was more than a tool, it was a part of her journey, a part of her heart. Her grandfather's voice echoed softly in her mind, you have found your way, Maya. Keep shooting with your heart. Maya smiled. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but she was ready. After winning the national championship, Maya returned to her small town, carrying with her more than just a trophy. She brought back a new sense of confidence and a story that inspired everyone around her. The townspeople welcomed her with warm smiles and proud cheers. The simple woman who once was ignored at the local shooting range had become a hero. Children gathered around her flower shop, eager to hear about her adventures and lessons from the competition. Maya smiled gently, happy to share, but she remained humble. Winning is not everything, she told them. It's about believing in yourself and trying your best. Her flower shop became a special place where people not only bought flowers but also shared stories, hopes, and dreams. Maya's quiet strength had touched many hearts. One afternoon, as Maya was arranging a bouquet of bright yellow sunflowers, a familiar face appeared at the door. It was Paul, the champion she had once competed against and now respected deeply. Hello, Maya, Paul said with a friendly smile. I wanted to congratulate you again. You truly earned your title. Maya looked up, returning his smile. Thank you, Paul. It was a great competition. Paul nodded thoughtfully. You know, watching you compete taught me something important. It's not always about being the strongest or the fastest. Sometimes, the quiet ones have the deepest strength. Maya's eyes shone. I learned a lot from you too. You pushed me to be better. The two shared a moment of understanding, a friendship born from respect and shared passion. Days passed, and Maya continued to practice shooting, though now with a different feeling. She was no longer just a competitor, she was a teacher, a guide, and an example. A group of young people from the town asked her to start a shooting club. Maya agreed happily. She wanted to help others find the calm and focus she had learned. The club grew quickly. Maya taught not only how to aim and shoot but also how to be patient and confident. She shared stories about her grandfather and the lessons he passed down. One day, a young boy named Amir joined the club. Amir was shy and nervous but had a strong desire to learn. Maya noticed his hesitation and remembered how she once felt. "Amir," she said softly, "shooting is like life. You must be patient and trust yourself. Every shot is a new chance." Amir smiled and tried again. With Maya's gentle guidance, his aim improved day by day. The club became a place of hope, friendship, and growth. Maya's life had changed, but she never forgot her roots. She still worked in her flower shop, where the smell of fresh blooms reminded her of simple joys. One evening, as the sun set and painted the sky with orange and pink, Maya sat outside her shop. She looked at the stars, feeling peaceful. Her journey had started with a single shot at a small shooting range, a shot that broke a champion's record and changed her life forever. Now, she knew the real victory was not the trophy but the courage to believe in herself and inspire others. Maya smiled softly, knowing this was just the beginning of many new stories yet to come. And in her heart, her grandfather's voice whispered once more, full of pride and love, "Keep shooting with your heart, Maya. Your journey is beautiful."